Hi, my name is Emily and welcome to Stocking Crochet Pattern. In today's video, I'm so excited to share how to make this adorable little fish stocking for cats. And so this is using the same granny stitch that I used to make this large granny stocking and this little mini granny stocking. And I also have a dog bone stocking version on my blog and my YouTube channel. So if you want to check those out, I'll put a link right in the description box down below. Or you can just click on my little, it says Sweet Cake Patterns. You can just click there and you'll be brought to my YouTube channel that you can find all of them. So anyway, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this adorable little fish stocking for cats. And so let's get started. Now, one thing I want to mention before I get started is that you can purchase the ad-free PDF in my Etsy shop and in my pattern shop, and I'll put a link down below for that. And there's also a free blog post written for this little stocking. So let's get started making this. Now, I want to note two things. First, that if you want to do this black eye while you're still crocheting it, so you want to crochet it and not embroider it on at the end, you can always just on round number 18 on the 9th stitch just put the just switch the yarn to black and then just switch back for the rest of round number 18. And then also this fin is super cute. You can move it in and out, but you can always attach it flat if you want to. And then this is also functional, so you can put whatever little Christmas gifts you want to give to your cat in here. So let's get started making this adorable little fish. So the supplies that you'll need today is some Red Heart Super Saver yarn. This is in the color Light Sage. And you'll need some of this. You won't need all of this for sure, but some of it. And then you'll also need some faux fur yarn for the cuff. And this is a Lion Brand Gopher Faux in the color Husky. It's this really pretty gray and white, there we go, gray and white fur yarn. So this is their number 6 super bulky weight yarn. They also have something called Lion Brand Gopher Faux Thick and Quick, and that's their number 7 weight yarn, and you do not want to use that, at least not for this project. So I'm going to set that aside. Then you'll need some scissors, obviously a darning needle, and you'll need a 5mm crochet hook for this pattern. What you're going to do is, to begin, you're going to grab your 5mm hook and your green yarn, and you're going to begin by making a slip knot, and we're going to chain 48. So to make a slip knot, what you do is you're going to put the yarn at the base of your hand, then you're going to wrap it around your finger twice. You're going to grab the back loop, bring it to the front, and then grab the new back loop and bring it up and over and off your finger. And then you're just going to tighten using your working yarn strand. And now what we're going to do is we are going to put it on the hook, and we're going to chain 48. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To make a chain, you just yarn over and pull through, and that is one chain. So now I'm just going to do these 48 chains off camera, and then I'll meet you right back. All right, so as you can see, I finished chaining 48, and now what we are going to do is we are going to you want it to make sure that the chain is straight, and then you're going to slip stitch to the first chain. So I like to just run my fingers down, making sure it stays straight, and then I'm just going to make a slip stitch. So I'm going to insert into the first chain right here, and then you're just going to yarn over, pull through, and pull through, and now you have a connected circle. And now what you're going to do is you're going to, for round number 1, you're going to chain 2, and you're going to double crochet cluster into the first stitch. Now what double crochet cluster means for this whole pattern is 3 double crochets into one chain or into one space, and so that is what double crochet cluster means. So what we're going to do is we're going to double crochet cluster or double crochet 3 into the very first chain right here where we did a slip stitch. There you go. So right here. And to make a double crochet, you're just going to yarn over and insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over, pull through 2, and then you're going to do that 2 more times. So a total of 3 double crochets into that 1 chain. Now what you're going to do is you're going to skip 3 chains, 1, 2, and 3, and into the 4th chain, you're going to make a double crochet cluster, and you're just going to do that all the way around. So into the 4th chain, make a double crochet cluster, or double crochet 3 into that 1 chain, and I will meet you once we have finished round number 1, and then I'll show you how to continue. Okie dokie. So as you can see, I have finished this round number 1. And you can see that it looks really good. Now we have 3 chains left, 1, 2, and 3. And what you're going to do is you're just going to slip stitch the first double crochet that you have. So that's like your between your clusters. You have 3 chains always, so that's basically what that counts for. Now you're just going to make a slip stitch to the first double crochet. Let me undo that real quick and I'll show you it. So you can see here's the first double crochet. You're just going to insert, yarn, pull through, and pull through. And now you have a nice connected. Make sure that it is all facing up and it doesn't like get twisted. And then you slip stitch it and then you have now a twisted stocking. That won't be very fun. So just make sure you don't do that. Now I'm going to slip stitch once again. Now for round number 2, what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2. Like I just did, and we are going to begin by making a double crochet cluster into the first 2 spaces, and then I will tell you what to do next. But before we do that, I want to show you one thing. So on every even row, what you're going to do, okay, so let me show you. So look, right here was where our 2 chains were. And then here's our 3 double crochets. Now, if I were to try to work between the double crochet and the chain, that would be nearly impossible because it's just such a small little space. And plus, even if you could, you would end up with a very kitty-wampus slip stitch to join area, and it'd probably even go to the front of your stocking, which would not be good. So what you're going to do is you're going to, for all the even rows, so all the odd rows will be like that, and then all the even number rows, so like 2, 4, 6, 8, you're going to work into this space right here. So not between the chain or the double crochet, into the very first space, so right here. And now we are going to just double crochet 3 or double crochet cluster into the first 2 spaces. So that was 1 space. I'm going to do that in the next space real quick on camera. And once you have finished that, which I just did, now you're going to double crochet increase cluster into the next space. So all that means is right here, and I like to, when I do work into the space, I actually really work into the space. I don't go into that stitch just because it makes it look more clean. So you can see if I were to work into the space, you kind of would see like a little spot, where instead if you just work into the space, it looks much more clean and neat. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to double crochet increase cluster into the next space, and that just means double crocheting 6 into this space right here. So it's going to be a very loaded little double crochet space. You're just going to double crochet 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you're just going to make 1 more double crochet into that 1 space. So you can see that is what it should look like. It should almost look like if you've ever done a shell stitch, that's kind of how shell stitches look like. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to double crochet cluster into the next 5 spaces. So I will meet you back once you have finished double crocheting clustering into the next 5 spaces, and I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I just finished double crochet clustering into each of the 5 spaces. So you can see here was our increase, and I just did 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 clusters. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing we did on this side. So we're going to do a double crochet increase cluster into this space, also known as double crochet 6. So we are going to do that real quick into this space right here. 2, 3, and this is just 6 regular double crochets. There's nothing fancy about them. 4, 5, and 6. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now what we're going to do is we're going to double crochet cluster into the last 3 spaces. So we will then be done with round number 2. So I'm just going to do this on camera real quick because it doesn't make sense for me to pause it and then start it up again. So 2 clusters, and then just now once, so let me show you this. So once you've come back, now because you didn't work between the chain and the double crochet, so on every even row, then you're going to work into this space right here. So we're still right here. So now I'm just going to double crochet cluster into that last space. And if you're wanting to just double check that you did everything right, you should end up with 14 clusters at the end of round 2. So if you're including this, and that's if you're including this double crochet increase, so this counts as 2 separate ones. So you should have 12 plus 2 for the increases. So now you're going to slip stitch to join, you're going to chain 2, and for round number 3, what you're going to do is you're going to double crochet cluster into the first 3 spaces. Now, this is an odd number row, so this is round 3. So you can see between the chain and the double crochet, we have quite a nice space right here. So we are going to do our double crochet cluster into this space. So it kind of alternates, it does alternate rounds. So on this round, you really couldn't work between the chain and the double crochet, and on this round you can, so now we're going to work into that. And then on the next round, which will be the even number, which is 4, round 4, you're going to work into the space and not between the chain and double crochet. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to do 2 more clusters. So you double crochet cluster into the first 3 spaces. Excuse me. I am still recovering a little bit from sickness. I have just really been on the struggle bus of not recovering quickly from sickness. Okay, so now we have 3 clusters, and now what you're going to do is you come to the double crochet increase cluster thing right here. So you're going to just work into the middle, so you're going to count 1, 2, 3 double crochets over, and right there in the middle, you're going to do another double crochet increase cluster into this space right here, or so-called space, lack thereof. And you're just going to work 6 double crochets into here. Now this will be a little bit tough to get all the double crochets to fit into there, but you're just working into the space, and so you just kind of separate as you go, and it normally works for me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and one more, 6. Now you're going to double crochet cluster into the next, next 6 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So you're going to do the same double crochet increase cluster, but I'll meet you back once I get to this side and I'll show you what to do. Okie dokie. So we did our first, our 6 clusters across. Now you can see we came back to this good old trusty increase from the last row, and so we're just going to do the increase into the middle of the last row's increase. That sounds really confusing, but all we're going to do is just separate the between the 3 increases on each side, and you're just going to double crochet 6 into the middle of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we are going to just double crochet cluster into the last 3 spaces. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I'm going to just show you kind of what we're going for right now. So as you can see, we have finished round 3, obviously, and basically your increases will be on the corners, so should be on the corners at least. So on this side and on this side you have increases. Now what we're going to continue to do is we're going to continue to go out, and then we're going to slowly go back in and come meet at a point. So I'm sorry, this one is definitely not finished, this little fish stocking, but just the one I have on hand. So as you can see, we're starting, here, let me go like this. We're starting here, and we're going up to the tip right here. So we started right here, and then later we'll come back and add the fur on. So we're basically going right up this way, and then we'll finish it off down here, and then we'll come back and do the cuff and all the other stuff. So now for round number 4, you're just going to slip stitch to join at the end of round number 3, and you should have 16 clusters at the end of round 3, and obviously that again includes the increase cluster. Now you're going to chain 2, and you're going to for rounds 4 and 5, you're just going to double crochet cluster in each space around. So this is an even row, an even number, round 4 we're beginning with, and so I'm going to go into this space over here because you couldn't go into between the chain and the double crochet, so I'm going to go over here. And for rounds 4 and 5, I'm just going to double crochet cluster in each space around, and you're just going to right here when you come to the increase, you're just going to act like they're 2 separate increases. You're just going to do a 3 double crochets in the middle between them, and then you're just going to continue going around. So that's all you're going to do, and I'll meet you back at the end of round number 5. All right, so I just finished rounds number 4 and 5, and I just wanted to show you, so this is how it looks. So I went on round 4, I went between the increase, and I just did 3 double crochets into that, and then on the next round I just went into the spaces between them. So now for round number 6, we did a slip stitch. Now we're going to chain 2, and to begin round 6, you're going to double crochet cluster into the first 3 spaces. So to do that, this is the even number round, so we're going to work into the first space and not between the chain and double crochet, as kind of obvious. We are going to double crochet cluster into the first 3 spaces, and I'm just going to do this on camera real quick. And now we are going to, once I finish this 3rd cluster that I'm on, 1, 2, 3, there we go. So we did our first 3 clusters. Now we are going to go, you can kind of see on rounds 2 and 3, we went right about here and did our increases. And so we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to do our increase into this next space. And you can see it's kind of in line with where we did the increases of the previous round. So we are going to do 6 double crochets into this space right here, 4, 5, and 6. And now for the rest, we're going to double crochet in the next 7 spaces, so all the way to the other side. And I'm going to do that real quick, and then I'll meet you back once we finish that, and we'll continue round number 6. Okay, so I did the 7 clusters across. Now we are to the other side where you can see we've done increases before on previous rounds. Now we're going to just do a double crochet increase cluster into this one, or aka 6 double crochets into this space right here. So I'm at 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we are going to double crochet cluster into the next into the last 4 spaces. So I will do that off camera, and then I'll meet you back when we're done with round number 6. All right, so we have finished round number 6, and I'm just going to slip stitch to join. Oh, there we go. Okay, and now for round 7 through 14. So for the next, I think that would be 8 rounds. Yep, for the next 8 rounds, so for round 7 through 14, so 8 rounds, we are going to just double crochet cluster in each space around. So you're going to just chain 2 and double crochet cluster in each space round, and then you're going to slip stitch to join, and then you're just going to do the same thing for the next 8 rounds. And then I will meet you back when we have completed that. And remember, when you work into that increase right here for round number 6, you're just going to work between them, and you're just going to do a normal cluster between the 3 double crochets like you normally would. And so now I'm going to complete the next 8 rows, and I will meet you back when we have completed that. Okie dokie. So as you can see, this is what it is looking like currently. And I just completed round number 14, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. And now what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch to join, like we've always done. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but you can see that the tail here to begin with, oh, there we go, the tail here to begin with, and this where I'm starting here is almost perfectly straight. And so that's the magic, or that's what happens when you do every other round going out and in. It stays almost perfectly straight, which is just awesome. So now we are going to begin the decreases to start closing the fish off. So like this. So you can see we've gotten to here. Now we're going to start doing the decreases. So let me show you what to do. So for round number 15, we are going to chain 2. Okay, so now for round number 15, we're going to double crochet cluster into the first 3 spaces. Now remember that this is an odd number, it's odd round, or the number is 15, so it's odd. So you're going to go into right here between the chain and the double crochet. And you can see that that's kind of obviously where you should go. There's a big space that would be empty if you didn't. Okay, so now we just did our first cluster, and I'm going to do 2 more clusters. 1, 2, and now I'm to my last cluster. And then, okay, so I just did those first 3 clusters. Now what we're going to do is we are going to do a double crochet cluster decrease. That sounds very complicated, but it's super simple. So all you're going to do is into the next space, you're just going to do 2 double crochets. So 1 double crochet, and then 1 more double crochet. So just 2 double crochets. And then into the next space, you're just going to do 1 double crochet. So you're not going to, normally you do 3 double crochets into this one space. Instead, you're doing 2 double crochets into this first space, and then 1 double crochet into this next space. And that is a total of 3 stitches, and that counts as 1 cluster. So now we have 1 less cluster on this side, and that will lead to it doing the shape in towards like the point. So I hope that makes sense. But when we come back on the next round, I'll show you, but this counts as 1 cluster now. So these 3 stitches, even though they're tiny bit separated, you want to make sure that they count as 1 cluster. So now we are going to, into the next 7 spaces, you're just going to make a double crochet cluster. So we did that only 1 double crochet into that 1 space, and so now we're just going to do a normal cluster into the following space. So into this next space, 1, 2, and 3. And so you can see it really pulled it in on that side, and that's going to make a nice curve in. So now I'm going to do that into the next 7 spaces, double crochet cluster into the next 7 spaces, and then I'll meet you back. Okay, so I just finished the 7 clusters going this way across, and now we are going to do the decrease once again. And all you're going to do for this decrease is you're going to do the exact same thing you did on that side. So into this next cluster right here, or the next space, excuse me, right here, we are just going to do 2 double crochets. And then into the following space right here, we are going to do 1 double crochet into that space. and that counts as 3 double crochets, or as a cluster, you can call it. So now I'm just going to do the last 4 double crochets, and then we will be done with round number 15. Now we have completed round number 15, and you should have 16 clusters at the end of round 15. So before on round 14, we had 18 clusters, and now we have 16 clusters. So we just lost 2 clusters because of those 2 decreases that we did. So now we are going to slip stitch to join, and you're going, oh, there we go, slip stitch to join. Okay, so for round number 16, we are going to double crochet cluster in each space around. So chain 2, double crochet cluster in each space around. Now remember, once you get to this spot, actually I'll just crochet to it real quick on camera. Remember that once you get to this spot, you're just going to act like it's a normal cluster. So you're not going to work between the two. Let me show you what I mean. Just again, so that you can make sure that you're doing it right. Okay, so right here is our decrease, you can see. So we have 2 here, 2 double crochets here, and then 1 here. And what you're going to do is you're just going to skip to this space right here. So 1, 2, and then you're going to count this one as the 3rd. And you're just going to work right where my finger is, right there. So that should just, basically you're counting those 3 as a cluster. So there we go. And now I'm just going to finish just double crochet clustering, that's probably not a word, but in each space around, and then I'll meet you back. All right, so as you can see, we have finished round number 16, and you're just going to slip stitch to join. So just make a slip stitch, and then you're going to chain 2. And for round number, let's see, 17, we are going to double crochet cluster into the first 3 spaces. So this is an odd number round, so we're going to go work between the chain and the double crochet. There you go. And you're just going to make a cluster into there, and then into the next 2 spaces after. So 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Okay, and now we're going to begin, we're going to do another one of those decreases so that we can continue to close this off and actually get done with it. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a double crochet cluster decrease, aka work into the next 2 spaces like we did on 2 rounds ago. So let me show you what I mean. So you're going to double crochet 2 into the first space right here, or into the next space right here, and then you're going to double crochet 1 into this following space. So you're working over 2 spaces where you normally would do 2 separate double crochet clusters, and you're just doing a decrease over that, so like that. There you go. And now we are going to double crochet cluster into the next 6 spaces, and I will meet you back once I have finished that, and we will continue. Okay, so I just finished going into the 6 clusters across, and now we are going to double crochet cluster decrease over these 2 spaces. So just like we did on that other one, into the next space you're going to double crochet 2, so 1 and 2, and then into, oops, I did it myself, haha, okay. Double crochet 2 into that first space, and then to the next space you're going to just double crochet 1 and 2, and that counts as 1 cluster even though that's over 2 spaces, like on the other side here. Now we are going to into the next into the last 3 spaces, 1, 2, and 3, we are just going to double crochet cluster, which just means 3 double crochet. I just didn't know how to write it otherwise, so that's why I wrote it that way. And at the end of this round, you should have 14 clusters, or yeah, groups of 3 double crochets. And remember that this counts as one, only one, not 2, this decrease, and so that is how you lost 2 stitches on this round. So now you should have 14 clusters, and now you're going to slip stitch to join. And for round number 18, we are going to chain 2, and we're going to double crochet cluster into each space around. So just a very simple, basic round. And you should have 14 clusters, obviously, and then this is an even number round, so we're going to work into the first space and not between the chain and the double crochet, because that would be very hard to work into, and it's not the row that we should, just to keep it straight. I hope that makes sense, but anyway, complete this round without me, and then I'll meet you back. Okay, so we have finished round number 18, and now I'm just going to slip stitch to join, like we've always done, and now you're going to chain 2, so 1 and 2. Then you're going to, for round number 19, we are going to double crochet cluster into the first 2 spaces. So you can see this is round number 19, so we're going to work between the chain and the double crochet right here, that space. And you can kind of tell because on the last round we couldn't have, and this time, we couldn't, and this time we can. So you're going to double crochet cluster into the first 2 spaces, and I'm just going to do this on camera just so hopefully you guys don't have to pause it all the time. And one thing to note is if you ever either think I'm talking too fast or too slow, because I know that there's a big difference between beginners and very experienced people. You can always slow down the video if you go to the bottom settings corner and adjust the playback speed. Okay, so we just finished round number 18, and you should have 14 clusters around. And I just wanted to remind you that when you do the decreases, right here, let me move my hand so you can see it. So here's the decrease of the last round, and you just work on both sides, pretending like this is just a normal cluster right there. And so you should have 14 clusters around. Now we're going to slip stitch to join like we always have done. And then you're going to chain 2. And now for round number 19, we are going to double crochet cluster into the first 2 spaces. So you're just going to go into the first space here. And remember, this is an odd round 19, which is an odd number, so we're going to work between the chain and the double crochet. There we go. Now I'm going to do one more double crochet cluster, and then we are going to do our decrease. So what you're going to do is you are going to make a decrease by just double crocheting 2 into the first space and then double crocheting 1 into the next space, and that will pull it together. So I'm going to do that. Double crochet 2, 1, 2, and then one more double crochet just into the next space, and that just pulls it all together. Now I'm going to, into the next 5 spaces, I'm just going to double crochet cluster across, and then we're just going to do the same decrease thing on the side, and then we are going to just finish off. So I will meet you back and we will finish. Alright, so I just finished the 5 clusters across, and now we're just going to do the same thing. So we're just going to do 2 double crochets into this first space right here, and then we are going to do 1 double crochet into the next space. And now we are going to double crochet cluster into the last 3 spaces. And at the end of this round, which I'm just going to do on camera with you guys as I talk, you should have 12 clusters. So we are on the steady decline of numbers, which is kind of fun. You can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel. This is a super quick project, and I really enjoy making them. Okay, so I just did my last double crochet cluster. I'm going to slip stitch to join now, and chain 2. And now for round number 20, we are going to do something very similar. We're just going to basically do another decrease round. So you're not going to, this is an even number round, so we're going to go into the first space. Excuse me, I'm still struggling to recover from my sickness, but you're going to go into the first space right here, the double crochet, your double crochet cluster will go into this first space because it's an even number of rounds, so we're on round 20. So you're going to double crochet cluster into the first space, and then you're going to double crochet cluster decrease over these next two spaces. Now you can see that this is just where, here we go, on the last round we did the decrease right here too. So we're just going to basically work over it and do another decrease on this same kind of, so we're going to have like kind of a area of decreases that we're going to continue to go over and over and over. So now you can see we did just another decrease, and that's really bringing it in. Now we are going to double crochet cluster into the next 4 spaces, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I will meet you back when I get to that side, and we'll do the decrease together and finish it off. Well, I actually got ahead of myself a little bit, so I did the 4 double crochet clusters, and then I just went ahead and did the decrease without even thinking. So now I'm going to double crochet cluster into the last, it looks like 3 spaces. So right here and here and here. And I will do that on camera real quick just because I don't want to have to stop it again. So this should be 10 clusters at the end of round 20. And we are slowly getting there. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can consider it 4 or 5 more rounds, and then we will be done. So we're getting close. Okay, so I just finished round number 20. Now you can see that we have the decreases on both sides, and you can kind of see, let me turn it sideways so you guys can see this better, that we are kind of getting that shape where it gets bigger and then stays the same for a little bit and then starts getting smaller again. And then we will have a little point at the very tip. So now we are going to begin round number 21. So we are going to slip stitch 2, join, chain 2, and you are going to double crochet cluster into the first space, and then you're going to decrease in the next space because you can see that's where we did it on the last row. So we're going to, this is an odd number round, so we're going to work between the chain and the double crochet. 1, 2, 3 double crochets. Now we are going to do a decrease here, and so just a normal, the thing that we've been doing all along, so 2 double crochets into the first space, then make sure you don't go between these 3, go into this next space, so it counts as 1 cluster. There we go. Now we are going to double crochet cluster into the next, it looks like 2 spaces, so 1, 2, we're going to double crochet cluster into the next 3 spaces, and I'm going to let you guys do this off camera and I'll meet you back. Okie dokie, so we just finished the 3 clusters across. Now we are going to do our decrease, our good old trusty decrease that we just never stop doing. So 2 double crochets into the first space and 1 double crochet into the next space. That counts as 1 cluster, as I keep saying over and over. And then we're just going to double crochet cluster into the last 2 spaces right here. 1 cluster, and I came across a knot. 1, 2, there we go. 3, 1, 2, and 3. There we go. Now we're going to slip stitch 2, join, and for round number 22, we're going to chain 2, and we are going to continue our decreases. Now, as you can see, this is an even number. This is round 22, so we are going to end up working into this space, but you can also see that that's where we just did our decrease on the last round. So we're just going to do it as we normally would. So we're just going to make into this space right here, we're just going to do a double crochet decrease, so 2 double crochets into this first space, and then 1 double crochet kind of going this way into the next space. Then we are going to double crochet in the next 2 spaces. 1, and you can see that we're coming almost done. So 1 and 2, there you go. Now I finished that. Now we're going to do a double crochet cluster decrease over these 2 spaces. So into this, 2 double crochets into the very first space, and then 1 double crochet into the next space. And then we are going to double crochet cluster into the last 2 spaces. So 1 and 2. There we go. And now for round number 23, we are basically almost done. So I'm going to slip stitch to join, and you can see this is how it is looking. We are almost done. We just have a little bit that we need to close up. Otherwise, if you put anything in, it will just fall right up the bottom. So we just did our slip stitch, and now we're just going to chain 2 like we always have done. And you can see that this is an odd number round, so it's a 23. And so we're going to work right here into the chain, between the chain and the double crochet. And so we're just going to do 2 double crochets into this first one, and then 1 double crochet into the next space, because we're continuing our decreases, excuse me. So 2 double crochets into the very first between the chain and the double crochet, and then we're going to do 1 double crochet into the other space right here. Now make sure that you always count that there's 1, 2, and 3 double crochets, and then you work into this space over here. You do not want to work between them, because then that would totally lose the point. Okay, now I'm going to double crochet into the next space. We are slowly decreasing, so we're now only 1 space here. Then we're going to double crochet cluster decrease over these next 2 spaces. And it's getting a little bit harder for me to show this on camera because it's getting larger and more awkward shaped, but I will try to continue to show you as best I can. Okay, so I just did the decrease, and now I'm going to double crochet cluster into this next space, and that's the last space that I will work into for this round. And now I'm going to grab the first double crochet, and this is going to be a little bit more of a stretch. You just it seems a little bit worse because that was a decrease, and so it kind of pulled it over. But you're just going to slip stitch the first double crochet like we have always done. And you are now finished with round number 23. Now for round number 24, you're just going to, this is going to sound weird, but you're just going to double crochet cluster decrease over all the stitches. So we're just going to chain 2. And now this is when it gets kind of tricky to, really tricky to show, and kind of tricky for me to explain. So just try your best to get it right, and if it doesn't get perfectly right, that's okay. So to begin, what we're going to do is we are going to, normally we would go into the first space, but the first space is way over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double crochet into the top of that double crochet between the chain and the double crochet. So we normally would never work into this because this is, we normally work into the first space like I just said, but we're going to just work 1 double crochet into the top of that first double crochet that we just did a slip stitch into. Then we are going to so I'm going to do 1, and then I'm going to do 1 more double crochet into that very first stitch. So 2 double crochets into that first stitch. Then I'm going to do 1 double crochet into the next space like we normally would. And then I'm going to do right here, you can see is where we're going to do another decrease. We're just going to do what we normally would. So 2 double crochets into the first space, and then right here where it kind of all joins, we're going to just do 1 double crochet into that space. Now I'm going to, you can see we have basically come back to the beginning. And I'm sorry, I know this is really probably hard for you guys to understand, but I hope it's just kind of making sense with all the rows that we've done together. So now I'm going to slip stitch to join. And what I like to do, because we have this tiny little bitty hole right here. What I like to do is I like to just chain one now, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to single crochet around this. So I'm just going to do, here we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet into the front and to the back loop like that, and then we're going to do a single crochet into the next loop, and then we're just going to cut our yarn. So you can see that is pretty well shut now at this point, and you kind of want to make it a point. So if you need to do something different, like a slip stitch or whatever, just do that, because you guys get the idea by now, I hope. And there we go. So now you can see that we have this cute little point, and we have finished our fish, and it looks really good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add the faux fur cuff. And so you're going to set aside your little bit of green yarn that I have left, and we are going to grab the cuff instructions. And to begin, you're going to grab your faux fur yarn. This is the Lion Brand Gopher Faux in the color Husky, like I already have mentioned. Now I'm going to grab the strand of yarn, and to begin, what you're going to do is you're going to go back up to the beginning where your chains were. So here's the point, and we're going to go back up to the beginning right here, and you're going to find where your tail is, and you're going to start right here next to that. So to begin, then we are going to just yarn over and pull the yarn through, chain 2 like we normally would, and we're going to double crochet cluster into the first 2 spaces, so 1 and 2. And this is a little bit more tricky to see because you can't really see the yarn at all. So just give yourself a little bit of extra time and patience. And I would recommend grabbing a stitch marker, which is what I just did, so that you know where your first stitch is, and you can do a slip stitch to that when we meet up again with the first stitch. So now I'm going to do a cluster into here and here. And if you're really struggling, you could even consider going up a little bit on your hook size, but you have to be very careful because that would also kind of change the size of it. But if you needed to, you could always do that. So I just did the first 2 clusters. Now into this next space, this next chain space. So we're just working into the chain spaces between the clusters of the first round. So right into here, we are going to do a double crochet cluster increase. So that just means 6 double crochets into this one kind of chain space, if that makes sense. I'm hoping this is making sense. It's kind of sometimes hard for me to explain things. I don't know why, but I struggle with it. So let's see. I have so far, and you just can kind of have to feel for it. So here's my space between the 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now one more, 6. And now we are going to, into the next 5 spaces, we are just going to make a double crochet cluster. So you're just basically working right here across, and I'll meet you back when I finish those, and we'll do the rest together. Alright, so as you can see, I just did well, you can't really see it, but as you can probably tell, I did my 5 clusters, and now we are to this other side, and we're just going to do the same increase, so 6 double crochets into this one space right here. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and now we are going to double crochet cluster into the last 3 spaces. So just normal 3 double crochets into the last 3 spaces. And once I finish that, which I'm almost done, you should end up with 14 clusters at the end of this round. So 2, there we go, and now this is the 3rd cluster. And now I'm going to slip stitch to join. So to the first double crochet, which I put a stitch marker into so I can feel easily where that is. Now I'm going to chain 2. And I do this exact same thing, which is the alternating rounds of odd even. So we did the chain 2 and the double crochet cluster into that very first space. So now we're going to go into the first space over here. So we're not going to go between the chain and the double crochet. We're going to go into here where my finger is popping through. So now I'm going to just do a double crochet cluster into the first 2 spaces. So this is into the first space, and I'm going to move my stitch marker over to here. 1, and then we're going to do it in the next space, and 2. There we go. So now that I finished those 2 clusters, we are going to double crochet cluster increase in the next space. So this is where we had done it on the previous round. So you're going to have to kind of feel for it. So you're going to feel, okay, here's the one space and this is the other space that we just went into. So 1, 2, 3, and then you're just going to kind of have to divide it with your finger. So then you're going to work 6 double crochets right into where my finger is. So it's a little bit tough to fit all 6 in, but just make do and it normally works. So 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oh, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there we go. Now I'm going to double crochet cluster into the next 6 spaces, and so I'll meet you back when I've finished that and I will show you what to do next. Okie dokie. So I got a little bit ahead of myself and I just did the double crochet increase cluster just like we did on the other side. So just between the 6 double crochets of the last row, just find the middle and then do 6 double crochets into there, and then you're just going to double crochet cluster into the last, let's see, this is row 1, into the last 4 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now you should end up with 18 clusters, substitch to join, and this is we just finished round number 2, so now I'm going to substitch join, chain 2, and for round number 3, we are going to get to do another increase. So we are going to do another increase round, excuse me. I should finish my sentence. Okay, so you're going to double crochet cluster into the first 3 spaces, and then we are going to double crochet increase cluster into the next space. So I'm going to do the first 3 spaces and the increase cluster, and then I'll meet you back. All right, so I just did the first 3 double crochet clusters, and then I just did the increase cluster, which was just between the 6 double crochets of before, and it was just 6 double crochets between them. Now we are going to, in the next 7 spaces, we are going to do a double crochet cluster into, then we're going to do a double crochet increase cluster, and then we're going to double crochet into the last 4 spaces. So I'm going to let you do the next 7 spaces, then I'll meet you back and we'll continue this. Alright, so we just finished these 7 double crochet clusters, and now we are going to do that same double crochet cluster increase that we did for round number 1 and round number 2. So you're just going to count 1, 2, 3 stitches over, 1, 2, 3, there we go, there's the middle, and we're just going to do a double crochet, 6 double crochets right into there, which just is a double crochet increase cluster. I don't know why I named it that super complex name, but that's just what I named it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. Now we are going to double crochet cluster into the next 4 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we are done with round number 3. And you should end up with 18 clusters at the end of round number 3. So 2, and then 3, and then 1 more. So you're going to double crochet cluster into the last 4 spaces. I hope I said that before. If I didn't, you're going to double crochet cluster into the last 4 spaces like I just finished doing. And now I'm going to slip stitch to join. Okay, so for round number 4, we just finished round number 3. I made a slip stitch, and now I just chained 1. Now we are going to, for round number 4, we're going to half double crochet cluster into this first space. So this is an even number round number 4. So we're going to go into the first space and not between the chain and the double crochet. So we're going to half double crochet into the first space. And half double crochet cluster, I'm sorry, I should have said that. So your half double crochet cluster, which just means 3 half double crochets into the very first space right here. So now what we're going to do, let me set aside my mess of yarn. Okay, there we go. Now, so we did it at the half double crochet cluster. Now what we're going to do is in the next 6 spaces, we are going to do a double crochet cluster. So 1, and because on round number 3 we did increases, you will come up, so we're going to do 1 and 2 clusters, and then you'll come up upon where on the last round we did the 6 double crochet. Oops, man, I'm really struggling, I'm sorry. 1 second. There we go. So you'll come upon where we did the double crochet cluster increase, or 6 double crochets into the same space, so right here between this, and you're just going to work a normal cluster between the two. So 1, 2, 3, and you're just going to work between. And then I'm going to continue going around. So I'm going to do the next, I'm going to do a total of 6 double crochet clusters. I'll meet you right back and we will continue this. So I just finished, my 6 double crochet clusters. Now we're going to half double crochet cluster into the next space, which just means half double crochet 3 times into the next space. 1, 2, 3, there we go. Then into the next space, you're going to single crochet cluster, which just means 3 single crochet into the next space. 1, 2, and 3. Then in the next space, you're going to half double crochet cluster. 1, 2, and 3, there we go. And then into the next 6 double crochet cluster, into the next 6 spaces, you're just getting double crochet clusters. So 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, and 6. And remember, when you get to this same increase spot, you're just going to work in the middle between the 6, double crochets. So it's just, you're going to pretend like they're 2 separate clusters. And now I'm going to do the 6 double crochet clusters, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I finished the 6 clusters. Now in the last 2 spaces, you're going to half double crochet cluster in the first space. So that just means 3 half double crochets into the first space. And then to the last space, you're just going to do a single crochet cluster. And so why we're doing these half double crochets and single crochet clusters is to make there kind of be a bit of an indent here, so it looks more like a tail on the fish. So this is going to kind of pull in, and then these are going to go out. So now for round number 5, we are going to slip stitch to join. Whoa, sorry. You're going to slip stitch to join now, and you should still have 18 clusters. Now for round number 5, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet cluster into the first space. And then we are going to, so single crochet cluster into the first space, and move your stitch marker. 1, 2, and 3. Then into the next space, you're going to half double crochet cluster. 1, 2, and 3. And then into the next space, you're going to do a double crochet cluster. 1, 2, and 3. And then into the next 2 spaces, so over the next 2 spaces, you're going to do a double crochet cluster decrease, which is the same thing that we have done on the green part of the stacking. So now we're just going to do it with the faux fur. So you're just going to do a double crochet in the first, 2 double crochets into the first space, and then 1 double crochet into the next space. Oh. Okay, so you're going to so we just finished our double crochet decrease. Now you're going to double crochet in the cluster into the next 2 spaces. So you're going to do 1 more double crochet cluster. We just did 1, and now I'm going to do 1 more. And then we will, so just a little recap, we did a single crochet cluster, half double crochet cluster, a double crochet cluster, then we did a double crochet decrease cluster sort of thing. Then we did 2 double crochet clusters, and now what we're going to do next is we're going to do a half double crochet cluster into the next space. So 2, 3 half double crochets. Then you're going to do a single crochet cluster into the next 2 spaces. So 1, and then 2. There we go. Then you're going to do a single, or excuse me, I'm sorry. So we just did a half double crochet cluster. Then you did 2 single crochet clusters into the next 2 spaces. So single crochet cluster in the next space, and then in the next space 2. And then we're going to do a half double crochet cluster into the next space. So we're kind of doing similar to what we did on the last round. So we did half double crochet cluster, single crochet cluster, next 2 spaces, half double crochet cluster. And now we're going to, we are going to double crochet cluster into the next space. 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and then we are going to, this feels like the spot to do it. So we are going to double crochet cluster decrease over this next these next 2 spaces. So 1 and then 2. And then we are going to, you can see that we are coming back to where we started. You're going to double crochet cluster, into the next 2 spaces. 1 and then 2. And then, my arms are getting tired, I'm sorry. You're going to half double crochet cluster into the next space. My brain is also starting to get kind of fried out, so I'm sorry if I am not making as much sense as I used to. I will try my best. So we just did a half double crochet cluster. Now we're going to single crochet cluster into the very last space. And now you have completed round number 5. We're going to slip stitch to the first single crochet to join, chain 1. So for round number 6, what you're going to do is you're going to single crochet cluster into the first space right here. So you're going to move the stitch marker real quick. There we go. 1, 2, 3 single crochets into the first space. You're going to half double crochet cluster into the next space. Then you are going to, as you can feel, there's our decrease coming up right here, and so we're just going to go ahead and do our double crochet decrease, a double crochet cluster decrease over this next 2 spaces. So 1, 2 double crochets into the first space. I'm sorry, my yarn is getting stuck. There we go. So 2 double crochets into the first space, and then 1 double crochet into the next space. Make sure you do not go between this because you can't see your work. So just make sure you count 1, 2, and 3. Make sure you feel for that. So then we're going to go like that. Then we are going to double crochet cluster into the next space. Then we are going to half double crochet cluster into the next space. And you can kind of catch the idea now. So we're going to single crochet cluster into the next 3 spaces. So 1, and then 2, and it's a little bit harder because those were single crochet clusters before, and so it's kind of harder to feel where those spaces are, but just feel the best you can, and if you mess up a little, it's okay. It's faux fur. You'll never see it. So now we did our 3 clusters. Now you're going to half double crochet into the next space. My yarn is getting stuck again. There we go. So now I just am doing a half double crochet cluster into this space. So 1, 2, and 3. Now you can feel that here is our decrease next, or here's our next decrease. So we're going to do a double crochet 2 into the first space, and then you're going to make sure you count 1, 2, 3 double crochets over and do a double crochet into the next space. Now you're going to double crochet into the double crochet cluster into the next space. 1, 2, and 3. Whoop, 3. And then you're going to you're going to half double crochet cluster into the next space. My brain is getting early fried. So half double crochet cluster into the next space, and then single crochet cluster into the last 2 spaces. So 1, and then 2. And you should end up with 14 clusters at the end of this round. So you're going to slip stitch to join, and you have completed your adorable little fish tail, or whatever you want to call it. It looks super cute. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut our yarn, and we are going to make the fin next and the hanger. And so I'm going to cut my yarn, and then we'll begin the fin and hanger. Okie dokie, so now it is time to begin the little fin for this little fish. So this is what the inspiration is from. And so now we're going to make a little fin on this guy. So I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to grab your trusty old 5mm hook, and you're going to grab your green yarn. And to begin, you're going to chain 15. So I'm going to make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, all you do is you just wrap your yarn around your finger twice, grab the back loop, bring it to the front, grab the new back loop, bring it up, bring it up and over and off your hand. Then you're going to tighten onto your hook. Now you're going to chain 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, and 15. Now you're going to, so now I just finished chain 15. Now you're going to double crochet 3 into the 3rd chain from hook, so the loop in your hook does not count as a chain. You're going to skip the first 2 chains, and you're going to double crochet into the 3rd chain from your hook. So to make a double crochet, you just yarn over, insert, yarn, pull through, yarn, pull through 2, yarn, pull through 2, and you're going to do that 2 more times into that very same chain. So I'm going to do that real quick here. There we go. And now you're going to chain, you're going to skip 3 chains, and then into the 4th chain, so 1, 2, 3, and then into the 4th chain, you're going to double crochet cluster or double crochet 3, whatever you want to call it. So 2 and 3 double crochets. Now you're going to do that just all the way across. So 1, 2, 3, and into the 4th chain, you're going to double crochet cluster, and then we're going to have 1 more cluster left over to do. So we'll have 4 chains, so 1, 2, 3, into the 4th chain, double crochet cluster, and then you have finished row number 1. So I am doing my last double crochet right now. Oh, it's a little hard for me to pull through. There we go. So there we go. Now I'm going to chain 2, turn my work, and what we're going to do is we are going to start kind of decreasing, so it kind of is like a triangle basically. So what you're going to do is you're going to begin by making, so we chain 2 and turned. Now you're going to double crochet into the 1st stitch right there where my thumb is, right here. So you're just going to double crochet into the 1st stitch. Then you're going to, sorry, I'm getting hairs stuck to my yarn. Now you're going to double crochet cluster into this spot right here. Then you're going to double crochet cluster into the next 2 spots, or 3, yeah, 2 spots. 1, and I'm sorry, I'm in a bit of an awkward position, so I'm crocheting 10 times slower than I normally would. So 2 and 3, there we go. And now I'm going to just double crochet into the last stitch, 1, 2, 3, into the last double crochet of the round, or of the last row. And as you can see, It's not 100%, but it's starting to bring it a little bit together. It's not perfect, but it's starting to get there. So now we're going to do this for the next couple of rounds. So we're going to do it for the next, looks like 2 rounds. So chain 2, turn your work. You're going to double crochet into that first stitch where you just did that. There you go. Now you're going to skip to this next space right here. You're not going to go between the double crochet and the cluster because that would actually end up being like an increase and you get more clusters. So you're going to go right here between the 2 clusters. 1, 2, 3. Now you're just going to do that into the next space also. And then now you should come to this side and you'll be able to just double crochet into the very last stitch. So right there. Okay, let me bring it a little closer. Right there into that last double crochet. And now you can see it's really coming together. Now what we're going to do is for round number, or row number 4, you're just going to double crochet into the very first stitch, and we're just kind of doing this so it has a roughly nice even edge. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be pretty nice, and then we'll be able to put faux fur around on it. So there we go, double crochet into the first stitch, double crochet cluster into the next space. So right here, and you should end up with only 1 cluster at the end of this round. So now I'm going to double crochet double crochet into the last stitch. So we only have 1 cluster. So we have 1 double crochet, a cluster, and 1 double crochet. Now you're going to chain 2. And this is where I am a little bit, what I'm going to do. Okay, so what I'm going to do now for round number 5 is I'm just going to double crochet into the very first stitch. Then I'm going to double crochet into the stitch between the 3. So there's 1, 2, 3 stitches. I'm just going to double crochet into the second stitch. We're just basically, and then I'm going to double crochet into the last double crochet. So that is what it should look like. There you go. Now we're going to chain 2, turn our work, and we're just going to do double crochet 3 together, or double crochet decrease over these last 3 stitches. So we're just going to yarn over, insert, yarn pull through 2, and then instead of yarning over and pulling through both of these loops and finishing it, you're just going to yarn over and insert into the next stitch, yarn pull through 2, and then you're going to do that one more time. Yarn over, insert, yarn pull through 2. You should have 4 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. And there we go. There's our little fin. Now I'm going to cut my yarn, which, let's see, here's my scissors. There we go. I'm going to cut my yarn, and then we're going to grab our faux fur yarn. So cut your yarn, grab your faux fur yarn, and I'm just now going to do basically going around the edge. So you can see here was our chain across, and that's where we're going to join it to the, let me show you just for this example. So you can see right here is where we joined it. So that's what we're going to do with where our chain is. So we're going to have it right here, and we're going to whip stitch that onto the stocking. And now you can see what we're going to do is we're just going to do faux fur around only this edge, and you're not going to go across the top where the chains are. Hopefully that makes sense, but if not, don't worry, we will go over it together. So you are going to start right here where your tail was, your tail to begin, and you're just going to start on the side. We're going to go up, and then go down this way, and then we're going to cut the yarn, and then we'll just sew this flat side that never got faux fur attached onto the fish. So I'm just going to yarn over, pull through, chain 1, and you're just going to single crochet going up. You're still using your 5mm hook. You're just doing everything simple and plain, and you're going to just go up the side of this. And then once we finish that, so I am going to go up this side. Then once we get to the top here where there's like this point, if you were to just do 1 single crochet into that top, it would end up being it would get kind of curved and weird. So what I like to do is I like to do 3 single crochets into that top stitch right here. And I'm sorry, my yarn is getting really tangled. So Forgive me if you see a big mess of yarn. Now I'm just going to go back down the side. So I did 3 single crochets into the top. Now I'm just going back down the side. And you want to just roughly go into each space stitch that you can. The goal is to just make it look even. I don't even worry about how many stitches I have. As long as it looks good, it is totally fine. So now I'm going to cut my yarn. And you can set aside your faux fur yarn. You will be done. You're 100% done with faux fur yarn, so you can breathe a sigh of relief. So now I'm just going to yarn over, pull through, and as you can see, we now have a little fin. Oops. So I'm just going to, so you can see there's the chain. We didn't do faux fur there. We just did it here. Now I'm going to just tie off all these tails, and then I'll meet you back, and we will sew this on and make the hanger. Okay, so I just finished tying in these tails. Now technically, if you left yourself a really long tail when you started this fin, you probably shouldn't tie it in because it's easier than having to tie in another piece of yarn. But I just grabbed a new piece of yarn because I hadn't left myself a very long tail. So now I'm going to show you how to attach it to the fish. Now, one thing I wanted to note before I show you how to do this is that at this point you really can decide which way you want to have your stocking face. So if you want to have your stocking hanging from this side, you're going to want to have the fin, you're going to want to have the fin on the more kind of on the right side. So if you want to have the stocking hanging from the left right here, you're going to want your fin on the right side. So basically on the opposite side. So if you want on this side, you're going to have it on this side, and if you want on this side, you're going to want it on this side. The hanger, I mean. So kind of at this point, you're going to choose which way you want, which way you want your stocking hanging from. So from this way or this way. So now that you've chosen that, and I always like having my stockings hang from this corner. So technically, this is the left corner for me because I'm left-handed. It depends on if you're watching the left-handed or the right-handed video, which are basically the same, yeah, so I'm not going to go into the long details. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to count up about 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then on the 5th row, you're going to attach it about here. So I like this side better than that side. This just looks better on this side. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4 from the top, so of the green clusters. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, what I'm going to do is you're going to want to make sure you don't sew the back, you want to make sure you just sew it onto the front side and not all the way through. Otherwise, you'll never be able to use your stocking, like put anything in it. So you're just going to go into the first right here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And on the 5th row, there we go. And then I'm just going to come back and later probably do a knot on the inside with this yarn. So, and then I'm doing it about on the lower, about halfway on the lower side. Now if you're doing on the other side, you just basically do 5 rows over like that. So now I'm just going to redo that because that came out. And I'm just going to whip stitch it on. It's super simple. And I'm not going to bore you to death as I sew this on myself, as I'm a bit of a slow. So all I'm doing is I'm just going into the chain and a few stitches on the stocking, making sure to not go through both layers, but just the one layer. Then I'm just going to go through a little bit of the chain and go through a double crochet and just trying to make it look as seamless as possible and yet done. So I'm going to now just finish this up real quick and then I'll meet you back. So as you can see, I have sewn on this little guy's fin. And now what you're going to do is you could always sew this down all the way around if you wanted to, but I like kind of the texture of it kind of coming up. Like, so just having that little bit sewn down. Okay, now we're going to make the hanger. So you're going to set this aside once again. You're going to grab your good old trusty 5mm hook and your green yarn, or whatever color yarn you're using, your number 4 weight yarn. You're going to make a slip knot. you're going to chain 25. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll meet you back once I finish chaining, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, so I just finished chaining 25. There we go, we're now in focus. There we go. Now what you're gonna do is you are going to double crochet in the third chain from hook, so the loop on your hook does not count as a chain, 1, 2, 3, and double crochet into there. Then you're going to double crochet, you're going to skip 2 chains, so 1 and 2, and then into the third chain, you're going to make a double crochet cluster. So 1, 2, 3 double crochets into that 1 chain. Now you're going to count 4 chains over, or 3 chains over, and then in the fourth, so 1, 2, 3, so 3 chains over, and then in the fourth chain, you're going to make a double crochet cluster. And then you're basically going to repeat that across. So you're just in the fourth chain, you're going to make a double crochet cluster. 1, 2, 3. In the fourth chain, make a double crochet cluster. 1, 2, 3 double crochets. There you go. Then we're going to go 1, 2, 3 into the fourth. 1, 2, 3. I'll let you finish this up so that I don't make this video forever long, and then I will meet you back. Alright, so I just finished this up, and now you should have 3 chains left. So you're going to count 2 over, and then into the third chain, you're just going to make a double crochet. And now you have completed your little hanger. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave myself a nice long tail to sew the hanger on. Then I'm going to tie off and grab my darning needle and my stocking. And what you're going to do is you're going to, whoops, you should be done, there we go. Now you're going to grab your short, what I like to do, this is just what I've done after making tons and tons of stockings, is I like to take this little short tail and I like to put it onto my darning needle. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make like a little ring. So you're going to hold it where your yarn's coming from and then bring it down to this side, just like you would picture a hanger being. And then you're just going to go into this front area and then the back. And I just like to use this little tail to sew these two back and forth enough that they're staying secure, so I can just sew them together and not have to do both at once. So there we go. Now I'm just going to leave this tail in the back, and then I'm going to tie a knot with this long tail and that tail in the end. If you don't want to do this exactly how I'm doing, that's totally fine too. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to feel, you can feel that right here is where my kind of the corner edge that I want to sew it onto. So I'm going to flip it out, hold it down right where my hanger, I want my hanger to be. And then I'm just going to go into the little bit of faux fur and the thing. Then as you're sewing it on, I would just recommend making sure that's still in the corner and not getting onto the side, as I've had that mistake several times before where I think it's, oh, perfect, and then when I'm done and tied it off, I'm like, oh, that was terrible. That's a pain. So I'm now just about done. I like to just go around the perimeter of this and just make sure each is secure. So I've gone here, 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 and I'm just going to go right here to secure it. And you can secure it more if you want or less if you want. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right through to the back, and you can see right here between where this hanger is now and the faux fur, the last row of the faux fur, I'm just going to make a knot here so no one will ever see it, but it's like a nice little way of making sure that this is secure and never going to fall off your mantle or wherever you're going to put it, and that would be just a disaster. So we're just going to make sure this is nice and secure. And now that we are done, you're just going to snip your yarn. I like to do like 3 knots, but you can do however many knots you want. And there you go. There's your little hanger and your little fin. Now one thing I wanted to note is that on this little fish, I decided to put like a little black eye. Now I would recommend, if you want to do this, You can do this as you're making this, so I would recommend maybe on like row, I think this was round 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so on round 19, just like, I think roughly in the middle, just making this a black cluster, or you can come after the fact and just do what I did and just add a little bit of black. So let me show you how you do that. Okay, so this is what I'm going to show you how to do. So on the 9th stitch over, so on round 18 or 19, depending on how you like your eye placement, I'm doing 18 for this fish. So on your 18th round, and then when you count 9 stitches over, from like the beginning of the round over, so on the 9th stitch, this is where I'm going to do my little eye. Now, you can do this however you like, but I'm just going to go under it and then wrap around a couple of times. Now, I would probably recommend, if you think of it, and I'll try to mention this in the intro of my video, but if you think of it, I would probably recommend doing it as you're going, just because it sometimes looks a little bit more professional than when you try to do it at the end. But you can do it either way if you decided to just do it now. But either way, whenever you do it, I just think it adds a lot of kind of fun, I don't know, character to your little fish. And so you can see there is about what I'm going to call good. I'm just going to pull the little black tails to my back side, and I will fix all the rest of the mess once I'm done. Let me push it through the hole right there. There we go. So you can see that is kind of what it looks like. And I just like the little black just because I feel like it adds a little bit of cuteness. But obviously it's a very personal preference. Now that is done, and congratulations. Thank you so much for making this super fun little crochet cat stocking along with me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I make a new video most Fridays, and so I'd love to see you there. I also want to mention that you can check out this next video to learn how to make this little mini greenie stocking right here. It's a super fun little pattern, and you can use it as an ornament or whatever you want to. So make sure to click this video.